Welcome to Driver Focus for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and we'll go through and rate the drivers and how they did for the whole weekend of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the sprint race, the shootout, qualifying and the race. There's only one place to start, and that's Sergio Perez. What a brilliant weekend for him. He won the sprint race. Yes, Friday qualifying wasn't great. He qualified in third place, but that was really just seemed like the warm-up for him. He kicked on Saturday with a P2 in the shootout. Strange where the Red Bull 1 lap pace went, but they were brilliant in the race, weren't they? As soon as that DRS opened, they were off flying. But it was inch perfect for Sergio Perez, wasn't it? I mean, apart from that small little nip on the wall that he had in the race, but we see Max do the same. It was a near perfect race for him at Baku, and I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. Next, Max Verstappen. He finished second in the main race. A bit sloppy with his start in the sprint race as well. Got in the incident with George Russell, and really that was just down to his poor start. And then I think positioning the car on the outside. Yes, he does drive aggressive and he does make them overtakes, but how often do you see him actually hit the driver? And I can see why he was really annoyed at George Russell. Drive hard, but at least don't make any impact. And I can see really people might be jumping on this one and say, Max Verstappen is crazy, he gets what he deserves. But actually, no, because when he makes that move, he does it fairly cleanly, to be honest. It's not often he just wipes the other guy out. So, yes, the other guys take avoiding action, but there we are. Hard but fair. He was a bit unlucky on that, and that cost him getting second place in the sprint race. And in the main race, everyone say that the safety car sort of screwed him over, but actually I think Perez did a brilliant job on that one. That's gone unnoticed. Just before that's sort of his pressure on Max Verstappen really forced Max to make that early pit stop. By lap 10 his tyres were gone, and just before he went into the pits, Perez was actually in the DRS zone, putting the pressure on Max Verstappen and sort of made him push and drive them tyres harder than he probably actually wanted to, and made him come in at that time. He did well holding on to his tyres, did Sergio, throughout the race, and I know that's his speciality, and it is a straight race where he does brilliantly. But Max Verstappen, not a great weekend for him. He'll be really disappointed, but I'm going to go with 8 out of 10. He's still, second in the race. Charles Leclerc, actually, he had a brilliant weekend, didn't he? Let's be honest. Who expected the Ferraris to be on pole? And it's, especially looking at where Carlos Sainz was, he was about half a second faster than his teammate throughout the weekend, and just shows how brilliant he is over the 1 lap pace. He's an absolute master at it. P1 in the sprint shootout, P1 in qualifying, and I think he did a brilliant job, and that's where the car is, and getting the podium in the race was a fantastic result for him. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Fernando Alonso, he got the 4th place in the race. He had quite a poor shootout, didn't he? He was way back. And then in qualifying, he didn't have the best qualifying. He was actually behind Hamilton, but he did a brilliant start. Made the moves. P4, I wasn't expecting that from him, and he's absolutely mega, isn't he? And again, we give Fernando a 9 out of 10. Carlos Sainz next in 5th place. He's had a poor weekend, actually, considering where his teammates been. He'll be really disappointed. He was scratching his head of where his car was at. He didn't know where he'd lost pace, and then just said he didn't have the confidence on the hard tyres to brake late and take the corners. I'm going to give Carlito a 6 out of 10. He'll be disappointed with this weekend. Lewis Hamilton, he started in 4th place, actually, and did a decent qualifying result for him. Beat his teammate, but then got unlucky with the safety car. That dropped him 10 places, but he was mega coming back through there, made some crucial moves on George Russell when he needed to, and Lance Stroll. Just didn't have the straight line pace to actually pass Carlos Sainz, and a P6, but I'm going to go for a 7 out of 10 for Lewis. Next is Lance Stroll. He had a poor sprint race, not a great overall in the race either. Made a decent move and held off George Russell there at the end, but not like his teammate who was aggressive and forcing and fighting Charles Leclerc in 3rd place. Lance Stroll 7th. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. George Russell, he finished 8th in the race. He actually had a good sprint race, didn't he? He qualified in 4th for that one, fighting up at the front, made the move on Max Verstappen, and yes, it was a bit scruffy and clumsy for him from there. In the main race, he started 11th, made good progress with a good start. Yeah, and then he just couldn't get the pass on Stroll, and I think it again. They've got the same engine in that one, and Aston Martin have really been struggling for straight line speed, and I thought he should have really made that pass on him. I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10 for our mate George. Next, Lando Norris. He finished the race 9th. Well, I don't know where to start with this. I think he did a good job for Lando in the race. Decent in the sprint. I don't know what to give him. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Yuki Tsunoda finally got his first points for the AlphaTauri team. He had a poor sprint race, didn't he, way up at the back. But when it counted in the main race, he was there. He got the points, and yeah, finally a point for Yuki. Moved out of finishing P11, didn't he? I'm going to give Yuki a 7 out of 10. He's finally got some points on the board for the AlphaTauri team. Next is Oscar Piastri, a P11. Again, his sprint race wasn't great, and his pace in the pace was just average, and I think that's more a reflection of where McLaren are. His sprint race was good, wasn't it? Actually, he made a good move on Lando Norris, and then made moves forward. But in the race, he was just sort of there, and but a solid race, I suppose. Finishing P11. Shame he didn't get the point. I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10 for Oscar. Alex Albon finished in 12th. He actually started in 8th, didn't he? Was it for the sprint race, that one? But he'd been on it in the sprint. The shame where that ended for him, and same with the race. I just thought he'd hold on and fight a bit further up the front, especially with the straight line speed of that Williams. That's what sort of helped him hold off Magnussen, didn't it, at the end in the race. I'm going to go for a 7 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Magnussen finished in 13th. They had a shocker in the sprint race. They were way back at the back, weren't they? And even at the start of this race, it started quite far back. Just not a weekend where Haas probably hoped for better. They'd be wanting to fight for points from every race going forward, they've said. So they'll be massively disappointed where they finished. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 for our mate K-Mag. Next is Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. He had a shocker, didn't he? He was way back, crashed out of qualifying, and then poor in the sprint race. Again, started like P18. He'll be hoping for better next weekend and more from the AlphaTauri scene, especially considering he had a decent Oz Grand Prix, didn't he? And he'll be disappointed with where he was this time. So I'm going to go for a 4 out of 10 for Gasly. Next is Ocon. Again, his teammate finished behind him in the race, but just wasn't there, to be honest. I don't know what's going on with that Alpine car, especially with their like 4th in the constructors last year, but they seem well down. Again, no points for them this weekend. I'm going to go for a 4 out of 10. That strategy just didn't work, did it? I mean, staying out on the hards all that time until the last lap, and it was just kind of like a no hope, go for all the best. And I suppose sometimes that's what you got to hope for when you do the pit lane starts. Sometimes it works, but this time it was a massive flop. Logan Sargent, he'll be really disappointed in this qualifying. He was looking like they were on it, but then crashed out. Yeah, it looked like, especially where Albon was, he'll be disappointed with that one. And in the race, he just was nowhere, way at the back. Lacked pace. I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10 for Logan Sargent. Next is Nico Hülkenberg, finished 17th, and he tried he got his setup wrong for the sprint race, and that prompted him to do pit lane start for the main race. He was poor in the sprint race, went backwards despite a decent qualifying. And same in the race, he tried the pit lane start and the same strategy as Ocon, and it was a spectacular fail. 4 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. His his racecraft was just poor, wasn't it? Valtteri Bottas, 18th. I just don't know what to say here. Valtteri had a brilliant season last season. Like I said, he seemed to be coming out his shell, but don't know what's gone wrong with him, Valtteri. He just had 3 pit stops. I don't know if the incident, the first or second corner where he lost about 5 places on the race, really damaged the car where he was just struggling for that. So I'm going to give him a bit of benefit of doubt, but I'm looking at a 4 out of 10. And I feel that's harsh, and maybe even generous. I was looking at maybe 3 even. He was so far back. He was miles off the pace. He finished a lap down. Zhou Guanyu, DNF. He had a decent race up until that point. Wasn't really in fighting for the points, but up there. Much better than Bottas was doing. Got to lap 37. A decent sprint race. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 for our mate Zhou Guanyu. And then Nick De Vries, he had a shocker, didn't he? He crashed and then was just on the back foot throughout the weekend. And then he DNF'd as well with a crash on lap 11 in the race. Just brought altogether a really poor weekend for Nick De Vries. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10 sadly, but there we go. Next up, Miami. Watch out for the race preview coming soon. Looking forward to this race. A week away, we're already into race week, guys, so not long to wait for Miami. We had a good race out there last time. Let's see how this one pans out. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment as always. I'll see you in the next video.